This is an interview conducted on March 29th, 2019. Drew T. Jackson Coaching, Speaking, and Training, interviewing Bill Leckie of Transition Coaches. Enjoy.
All right. Hi, Drew here with Drew T. Jackson Coaching, Speaking, and Training. And those of you who've been following me for a while know that I love to bring interesting, successful people that will add value to you. And I have one of those with me today. I have Bill Leckie who's with me. And I'm going to share his bio real quick. And then we're going to jump right into interviewing him and kind of hearing about what he does. So let me read this here. For over 35 years, Bill has been helping people make successful and sustainable change. He started Transition Coaches to train leaders and their teams to successfully navigate transitional seasons and life changes, both individually and organizationally. He's a speaker, teacher, consultant, coach, and author of 3 books, the latest of which is Thriving in Transition, Lessons from the Wilderness. So you have a bunch of experience in transitions. You literally wrote the book on transitions, Bill. So share with us that's your a little bit about you, but tell us about your family, where you're at, and your kind of your background.
Sure, happy to do that. I was born and raised in Shreveport, Louisiana, and I jokingly tell people I'm a Scottish, Louisiana redneck with some Cherokee Indian thrown into my heritage. Make things really interesting. That's right. My pedigree. But I've been married for right at 39 years. In fact, August.
Congratulations.
39 years that Deborah and I have been married. And we were very young. I was 19. She was 18 when we got married. But we had a very clear sense of purpose. And that sense of purpose we saw as something that had to be fulfilled together, not separately. And so I would say that's a huge reason for our ability to stay together for the length of time. A lot of people ask me that in this day and age, how can you do that for so long? And I think it's that sense of shared purpose.
That's good.
So we have 2 children. My son and his family live in the Metroplex in Dallas-Fort Worth. They live in Arlington.
Okay.
They have 2 children. And then my daughter and her husband live in Northwest Arkansas in the Bentonville area, and they have 4 children. And they just had 2 years ago a set of twins, and that set of twins came premature. There were a lot of things involved, lots of medical stuff, and so it was really been interesting, the challenge of walking with them. But they just had their 2-year birthday, and we couldn't be more excited about that. So our family is a big thing. We enjoy them. We love our grandkids. And so, but another thing, just a little background on me. I'm a sports guy. I like sports, but primarily I like football.
Yeah.
If football is on, I'm probably watching it. I just enjoy the game. I do have teams that I root for, but I don't consider myself a homer. You know what I mean?
Okay.
My team's the greatest team. Everybody else's team is terrible. I enjoy the sport. So I enjoy good football. I don't care who's playing. In fact, this new league they have, the AAF, I'm watching that. I mean, it's football.
Okay.
So, I mean, I enjoy it. I'm also a musician. I've been a guitar player for many, many years. I've had the opportunity to play live on stage and have my own band and things like that. That's something that was of interest to me. I don't do it as much anymore. But I still have guitars hanging in my office, and I pull them out and play them, not daily, but at least every other day or so.
Yeah, it looks like we got some pictures of
There's a picture
background
there. It's part of the decor, so to speak, of my office, kind of part of who I am. And then to relax, I enjoy sitting on my patio with my wife, with friends, just having good conversation. As a way of winding down. So
that's great.
It's a little bit about me.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I have a question now on playing the guitar. Is there your favorite song to play that maybe, the listeners would know, or a particular one that you've always enjoyed playing?
Well, I kind of grew up a Southern rock fan.
Okay.
Grew up in a household of old time country and western. I don't know if maybe I was just kind of trying to break out of that, but I grew up kind of a southern rock fan. So anything by Leonard Skinner, anything by ZZ Top, some of those guys, those are all classic rock bands. Those are all guys that I enjoy. Can play a few of their tunes.
That's a Simple Kind of Man. That's one of that. Can you play that?
Oh yeah, Simple Man. That's one of my
Simple
favorites.
Man, there it is. Oh, that's great. That's great. Oh wow. Okay. Well, that was fun. Very cool. Well, what made you decide to become a coach and kind of walk us through that transition
Yeah.
and what that looked like?
Well, I spent over 35 years working in nonprofit arena as a minister, but also as a bivocational guy. I also spent time in the workforce, which I felt gave me a tremendous balance in life and gave me a different perspective, perhaps, than if all I did was just be a full-time guy pastoring a church. Not kicking that, I think it's helped me.
Yeah.
What I came to realize is that I spent the majority of my life helping people make change and helping them see that change be successful and sustainable. In essence, I came to realize that what really drives me is that ability to help people improve.
Mm.
Uh, and I have been a coach. I've coached athletics. I've coached varsity baseball, varsity basketball, and soccer, and so forth. I've coached that on the high school level. But I enjoy the process of helping others improve. And
Yeah.
so here I am a little later in life, different season of life, and looking to make some adjustments. And coaching became the most natural thing because, in essence, it's what I've done my entire adult life.
Yeah.
Uh, so it's a very easy transition for me in that regard of just giving myself to helping people. And today, through Transition Coaches, I'm focused on really helping leaders and their teams
Yeah.
successfully navigate transitional seasons. And so it's kind of my niche in the way that I tell people I'm not really an expert on transition. I don't know if you can be an expert on transition because every transition is a little different, but I am experienced. So I've gone through a lot of different transitional seasons, geographical transitions, occupational transitions, relational transitions. I've had transitions that someone else's decision put me in, and I've had transitions where I've made the decision to make some changes. So I can say that I have experience that I bring to the table. And out of that experience, I've learned a lot of things you should not do.
Mm.
You know? It's important to know things to do, but it's
Right.
just as helpful to know things that don't work. It's helpful to know things that get you in trouble. It's helpful to know things that will bog you down in the
Yeah.
process. So I certainly bring that to the table. I'm a strong believer in vicarious learning. In other words, I think experience is a valid teacher, but I think it doesn't have to be our only teacher. I think if
Yeah.
we can learn from the experiences of others, we can avoid some of the pitfalls, maybe even some of the wounds and hurts and scars that we all kind of carry in life. But we can avoid some of those if we will learn from others' experience. And I certainly bring that to the table.
That's great. That's fantastic. Well, and so much of the business world, when I'm talking to people and uh, you hear the word disruption, and disruption in the marketplace. A lot of people that I work with in the mortgage industry, there's a lot of change going on there in technology. There's companies that aren't making it, so there's mergers and acquisitions. And as
Right.
I actually saw a professional on LinkedIn, and she was talking about change, and she shared uh, the John Maxwell quote: "Change is inevitable, but growth is optional." Right, and
Correct.
that whole concept. And I said, I just had a comment on there. Wow, this is so timely because I'm meeting with a transition coach, and I get to interview him tomorrow. And she's in the thick of it. She has changed
Right.
careers. I just got a text from a friend last night, long time, um, highly successful mortgage industry professional, no longer at the place that she was at.
Yeah.
Transition. right? And so,
Yeah.
so many people are finding themselves in this transition moment. As I'm just thinking about this, another text just 2 weeks ago from a friend transitioning out of where she's at, highly successful. So, as we think about these transitions and moving into that new area, it's very timely. It's very relevant to right now and what we're looking
Yes.
at.
Yes,
And
it's one of the reasons I really have focused in on transition. One, it's something that everyone experiences.
yeah,
No one avoids it. Even though we live in what I call a transition averse culture,
yeah,
we immediately equate transition with hardship, with difficulty, and not going to be pleasant. And those are all things that we equate transition. In fact, if you want to just get a rise out of people, walk into a meeting and just bring up the word, just say the word transition. I mean, you're going
yeah,
to get a very interesting response. You're going to make some people uncomfortable immediately by using the word. But I'm convinced that we really have given transition a bad rap. And the sense by what I mean by that is transitions are unavoidable, but they don't have to be unbearable.
mm-hmm.
In fact, when we learn how to properly engage and embrace them, they become profitable. How many times
Good.
can you look back on a season in your life and you say, well, I really wouldn't want to relive that, but my goodness, how valuable that season proved to be in my life.
Yeah,
Lessons learned, growth, skills added, all of those things happen. And it happened in a season of transition. But
mm-hmm.
here's what I think. If we can learn to view transition that way on the front end, we can benefit even more.
Yeah,
Because if it's a mind shift that we have to make, you know, to use a pop culture reference, if we could somehow have a Thanos moment where we snap our fingers, you know, and instead of half the world's population in Avengers movie, Infinity War, instead of everybody dissolving, we could just make all transition go away.
mm,
Well, we would simultaneously remove all the opportunities for growth,
yeah,
learning, improvement, promotion. All of those things would go away at the same time because
true.
they all require us to go through some type of a transition.
Yeah,
So, what I've discovered is that there are things we can't control in transition,
mm-hmm.
but attitude and perspective are not among them.
Yeah,
We have full control of that. And that's good news because attitude and perspective shape our experience in every season. And
that's
they
good.
really do so in transitional seasons. So I am convinced that transition does not have to be an enemy we fight or we resist, but we learn if we can learn how to properly engage it and embrace it and its purpose, then we can actually make it a powerful ally, and we actually benefit through the process. And that's the whole point of the book I wrote, Thriving in Transition. And that is, we don't have to just survive them.
Yeah,
With some coaching and some help, we can actually learn how to thrive in the midst of those seasons and get the absolute most out of them. I mean, let's be honest. If we're going to have to go through transition, I can be drugged through it, kicking and screaming, which only is going to give me a sore throat and give me a need to buy new shoes. Uh,
right.
or I can embrace it, lean into it, and actually benefit from the season. I choose the latter.
Yeah, and as someone who works with senior leaders, owners of companies, how great would it be if your team, your company, your organization had that mind shift, had that mindset change where they went into transition with a positive viewpoint of it, and they with a
Right,
different understanding of, instead of this automatic, you know, gut visceral response to transition as, ooh, transition bad. Uh,
right.
Instead, having this mindset of, oh, okay, we're going to grow, we're going to develop, we're going to get better, and
Yes,
that's going to make me better. That's going to make me more valuable to the team, to the organization, to wherever I go from here.
no doubt.
I learn how to interact and engage with this thing that, like you said, we all have to engage with. If I learn how to engage with it in a positive way, that I reap all the benefits out of it. I mean, that sounds like a dream scenario for an
Well, it
organization.
is. it's simple. It doesn't mean that it's easy
Yeah.
because we all come with our previous experiences, right, of what a transition was. And unfortunately, when it comes to companies and business and organizations, transition is experienced to some degree based on how the culture itself functions. So,
Mm.
leadership's responsibility is to create an environment where transition is not something to be dreaded because now it's a moving floor. Nobody knows where they are, or they feel like, oh my gosh, our jobs are on the line, blah, 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 blah. That breeds insecurity, and that
Mhm.
does not do what we want. But if we've created the correct culture and we've created an agility within our teams to embrace change, because let's be honest, in the marketplace right now, change is coming at an accelerated pace.
Absolutely.
Technology and user adoption, people's expectations on companies, these things are forcing change. So the company or organization that's able to kind of build in this
Mhm.
mindset and create a culture where transition becomes an opportunity for innovation. It
That's
becomes an
good.
opportunity to solve problems and come up with solutions. These are all things that are very positive in business. However, they don't often get associated with the word transition. With transition, we think about it's going to be challenging, it's going to be uncomfortable, it's going to require a lot of effort. Well, what's interesting is those are the same things that we associate with growth and improvement.
True.
We're going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be challenging. We're going to have to put effort. So they go kind of hand in hand. And if
Yeah.
we can see them that way, then it makes a huge difference. It just takes a little coaching and some insights to help people buy in on that and help put aside what their previous experiences have been. Quite frankly, many of our experiences with the transition have been shaped by the leadership we had to walk through it under. So,
That's true.
yeah, transition is something that leaders have to take responsibility for.
Absolutely. Well, and it really is with that mindset shift. Uh, the old saying, what 10% of life is what happens to you, and 90% is how you respond to what
No,
happens to
no
you and
doubt.
how you react to that. And so
No doubt.
if you can go into those transitions with a positive mindset, it's going to make all the difference.
It
So,
does.
well, let me ask you this: what's your passion? Where's your inspiration come from? What's your why?
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a great statement. I love Simon Sinek and his statements. So his book, Start With Why, and so on and so on. I've read those and his book, Finding Your Why. Those are all significant and helpful resources. I've put together my why statement this way: to inspire others to discover and fulfill their purpose so that they can live a meaningful and impactful life that makes a difference in the
Mm,
lives of others. And so that's kind of what gets me up in the morning, is
yeah,
helping other people actually find what they were put here to do and be able to step into it. So their lives are more meaningful, they
yeah,
make a more positive impact, and that influences the lives of other people. I think that's what coaches do. It's something that, well, let me just put it, it's what gets me up in the morning.
yeah.
Is the thought that I can help someone else really step into what they were made for in this life, and that they can leave an imprint that's lasting
It's great.
because of the influence that they're able to live. That's really my passion. That's what I get amped about. I think that's why coaching is such a good fit
Yeah,
for who I am, is helping people discover that. I've chosen the niche of transition, but the reason is in order to arrive at those places I just mentioned, we're going to go through multiple layers of
yeah,
transition. So we need the skills to navigate those well and as a part of becoming who we were really made to be.
yeah. Well, I think it's so good to have a specialist in that too, in that niche, that area, with it happening so often. I mean, in any one organization, you could be asked to come in and give the same talk 4 times, really, or 4 different lessons on transition to reinforce that idea. Hey, another change coming, and this is why it's good. This is why it's positive. This is why you can get on board. And here's how. Let me give you some tips on how you can get the most out of it.
For
And
sure.
so I know that you engage with organizations. So you do coaching, you do one-on-one coaching. handle private clients where you can meet with them and kind of help them through a transition. Maybe some of my friends that are, in that career transition, and they want to really make sure maybe this is, hopefully, or one of their final transitions in their career. They're towards the latter end, and they want to make sure the last 5 years of their career, they get the most out of it. So you can connect with people on that level, but you can also connect with people, organizations. That's how I first connected with you. You came into an organization. There were, I don't know, 30 of us or so in the room, and you really helped us make that mindset shift on the topic of transition. So tell us how you engage with people, organizations, and kind of what that looks like.
Well, obviously, the website that I have is thrivingintransition.org. And when you hit that page, even on the landing page, you don't have to go any further than that. There's a button right in the middle that says book a training. Okay. If you click that, it will automatically give you some choices of having me come and speak, book me for a training, a workshop, or whatever it is you want to do. So it gives you options, and I do all of those things. Of course, I spent, like I said, over 35 years as a public speaker. I actually began public speaking when I was 17. So I'm not going to try to do the math on that. It's a long time. And so I enjoy that. I enjoy speaking to groups and speaking to leaders. The thing about coaching that I prefer, as a minister in the past, I did counseling. And unfortunately, with counseling, you're often trying to convince people that they need to make a change. The difference with coaching is that you are having clients who already decided, I've got to make this change. I just need help to do it. So they're already motivated to do the work. They're already motivated to do the stuff. They just need someone to help them, an objective eye, an objective ear, who can help them improve. If you look at athletes, athletes have coaches for their entire career. Mm-hmm. They never reach a point where they don't need coaching. And it's because they understand coaching is what helps them improve. We can't self-assess accurately. We have too many blind spots. So we need that coaching help. And that's one of the things about coaching I enjoy. Whether it's a one-on-one client or it's a one to a group, one of the things I'm working on now, obviously, are some webinars as well as some web courses so that I can actually get this message out to even more people. Basic practical tools. What are some common pitfalls in transition? How do I avoid those? So am I normal? I'm feeling these things. Is that weird? Is that uncommon? Is that a normal thing to feel? These are all things that help us navigate. What are some ways? What are some keys for making these successful and sustainable change? How do I know where I'm at in the process? These are all things that are extremely helpful, not only to individuals, but also to organizations. And with all organizations, it always starts at the top. Yeah. Let's be honest. I mean, it starts there. So the C-suite down, what their perspective is on transition is what's going to filter out through the organization. I say that, but it's also important that they communicate clearly throughout the organization so that if they have a positive view of it, that's what gets imprinted on their employees. If they have a negative view of it, they don't really have to say much. That's just going to come across. We know that's just a basic thing about leadership. Yeah. So I think it's helpful for companies, organizations, whatever their business, whether they're in healthcare, finance. Hey, let's be honest. Humans are humans, and change is fundamentally a human issue. Now, in business, there's a lot of talk right now. Change management is the term, but it is primarily focused on process change management. So you have steps to run. So you're basically just a glorified project manager checking boxes for change. What gets left out is the simple question: how much of your return on investment is dependent on user adoption? That's a human thing. Yeah. How much of this change that you're doing depends on your staff and your employees buying into it, actually adopting this new method, tool, or resource. See, that's the human side. And so my area of change management is not so much coming from the process side, it's more from the people side. How do we get people to understand what's their level of awareness of why this change matters? Why this change now? These are all important things that have to happen to create an environment, a culture within an organization that can adapt quickly to a changing marketplace.
That's good. And I have on my home screen right now the PDF, the most recent study by Gallup on the state of the global workplace. And I think year after year, it's never workplace engagement has never risen above 30%. So you talk about the human side, the people side of accomplishing the task, and if 30% on average is only engaged, how much of that? And I just kind of look at the flip numbers on my in some of what I do assessments and different behavior styles and types in the marketplace. And 70% of people struggle with change. Well, I wonder if those numbers have anything to do with each other. There are a group of people that they've maybe innately or through, nurture, how they were raised, they figured out how to handle transitions. But you got
Right.
the majority, the overwhelming majority, 2/3 of your team members that they are automatically have a default to struggle with change.
No
And
doubt.
so what you're sharing, it may be common knowledge to a few, but to the vast majority,
It's
they check out at that moment and
Well,
they
we've
show
not
up.
been equipped to handle change well.
Yeah.
This is one of the reasons I've decided to be involved. Some of the best advice I was ever given was, if you're going to have to go through a season, you might as well benefit from it,
Yeah.
right? I
Right.
mean, so even if my company is really bad at communicating change and transition is terrible and whatever, don't do it well, I, as an individual, can still navigate that in a healthy fashion in a way that can be beneficial to me.
Yeah.
Even if the rest of the team or the organizational culture is not great for that, as an individual, if I have these tools, I can still benefit from this season and I can still cope with it. And I can be a leader, whether I'm a leader by position or title or
That's
not.
so good.
And
Yeah.
so that's a significant truth to me. And that is that people can navigate change in ways that are beneficial to them. Because here's what I've learned: every transition, regardless if it's kind or type, has two foundational purposes. The
Okay.
first one is to expose the things that are hindering us.
Okay.
It is going to bring issues to the surface.
Yeah.
Anytime we go through a transition, some people look at me funny when I say, well, what are your issues? And they go, what do you mean? Well, if you're in transition, trust me, there are issues and they're going to come to the top. The key is, what do you do with them when they come to the top? Do you push them aside? Do you blame somebody else for those? Do you excuse yourself? Or do you
Yeah.
look at those things and say, you know what, I'm going to address these. This is an opportunity for me to unpack and lighten my load a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
We tend to drag things with us from season to season, and we wonder why we get tired. It's because we're overloaded. Or we wonder why do I keep having to deal with these same issues in one season after another? Well, very simply, you brought it with you.
Yeah.
So one of the things about purpose of every transition is it's going to expose things, but it's also going to give you an opportunity to establish some things that you need to make progress. That might be a skill set, some ability you may need to add, some knowledge that you may need to gain, some dealing with things within your own life. Maybe you have some emotional, spiritual, or mental blocks that
Yeah.
are affecting your ability to effectively change. This is why coaches and mentors and so are so helpful, because they help us get through those things. So when we recognize that there's purpose for something,
Mm.
every season is better when we see the
Yeah.
purpose. It's when we don't think there is a purpose and we feel like we're being picked on or kicked around and this is just meanness or whatever. Those are hard seasons to get through.
Yeah.
But if we can lock in on the fact that there is a purpose, and in transition, there's always these two. It's exposing things and it's establishing things. It's how we address what's exposed and how we embrace what needs to be established that determines whether we survive the season or actually thrive in it.
That's fantastic. Exposing and establishing. If you're watching this interview and that is all that you, just the last 5 minutes is all that you were able to watch of this this interview, that was gold right there. Thank you so much, Bill, for that really transformational truth that you just shared with us. And that's just some of what you are able to do with organizations. I mean, some of the things that stuck out to me when you were sharing what you can do with organizations or with individuals is helping people identify where they're at in the process. I think we all want to know. You talked about purpose, and
Yeah.
if we know, so often we just feel like everything's in chaos around us, and we're just trying to get the handle. You know, can I get some handles on this so that I can figure out, do I have 3 steps left? Do I have 5 steps? Do I have 7? Where am I at?
Right.
Am I close to the end, or am I at the beginning? I can get prepared and mentally equip myself for that journey ahead. And so those types of things are so valuable. Wow. I mean, we have just been flying through this time in this interview today. I want to make sure that people know how they can connect with you. And I'm going to ask you if you have any kind of last final parting words you want to share. But people can connect with you on social media.
Yes.
And then you have your website, thrivingintransition.org. I'm going to have the link to that right below everywhere that I post this.
Okay.
And then you do some video blogs each week. You have various things. Once again, tell us on social media how they can connect, some of the things you're doing, and then any parting words you want to share.
Sure. I'm on Instagram at Bill Leckie Coach. You can follow me there. I'm also, of course, LinkedIn. You can check me out there, Bill Leckie. And you can also find me on Facebook. And Twitter. So there are several locations people could find me on social media. If you want to go to my website, thrivingintransition.org, then you can see, if you want to explore around in there, you can, up in the right corner, there's a thing that says Thoughts on Things. That's my weekly blog post, little video blog post that I do every Tuesday called Thoughts on Things. It's whatever I'm thinking about related to transitional seasons and things of that nature. So there are little nuggets, little things, little thought-provoking ideas for people to follow. Just did one on the difference between boundaries and barriers.
That was good.
And why it's important to understand the difference and not treat boundaries like they're barriers. So little things like that, I blog on those kind of on a weekly basis. So they could get access to all of that there. There's also on the page, there's a free download, a free PDF that I put out there called When Transition Wasn't Your Decision. And it just gives you 4 basic things to remember when you're in that mode, that season, that can help you thrive rather than struggle to survive.
That's fantastic. That's so good. Thank you. Thank you so much, Bill, for allowing me to interview you today and sharing this tremendously valuable content with all the listeners, all the viewers. They're getting to watch this on the various platforms. And so once again, reach out to Bill, download that PDF. If you've ever gone through a transition, I think all of us have, that wasn't our choice. And get those 4 principles. And make sure that you reach out to Bill if your organization is going through a transition, or if you personally are going through a transition. He can help you, and you will get the most out of that season if you seek out his help. So thank you so much for watching. Drew T. Jackson, coaching, speaking, and training. And Bill, thank you so much. You have an awesome week, and we'll do it again.
All right, man. Thanks a lot.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.